How's it going, everybody? For the past week, I've hardly done any resistance training. And despite that, I feel bigger, I feel leaner, stronger, all around just more confident in all the exercises that I'm doing now. So why is that? If I was doing less, and in some cases I do nothing, then why do I feel stronger when I come out of it? That's because this was a scheduled deload week. And that's what I'm going to be talking about in this video. Specifically, how to properly do it, who needs to do it, because not everybody needs to deload, and why you want to do it. Like, why is it beneficial for you? Okay, first, before we dive in, I just want to mention that I realize this is Johnny Sins talking about deloading, so I see the jokes coming from a mile away, guys. And I realize I'm walking right into this one. I'm just serving this one up to you, so enjoy that. Also, if you're new to the channel, I'm all about how to get fit and healthy at home without relying on a gym membership, using calisthenics, using primal movements, using all kinds of things. So if that sounds up your alley, don't forget to subscribe, all right? So how do you do a proper deload week? I think that's the first question. How do you do it? Well, what's most recommended, and what I just did this past week, is a reduction in volume. And there's a couple ways to go about that. First, you can reduce the number of sets that you do by about 50 to 70%. And that's the method that I use. So I typically do 4 or 5 working sets for each exercise. So all I did was I reduced that to 2 sets per exercise. So I still did my workouts, but I'd warm up and I'd go through all the scheduled exercises, but I'd only do 2 sets. And also, I wouldn't quite go till failure like I normally do. I'd stop just a little short of failure, because the whole deload idea is about not stressing yourself out. You're taking a sort of break, right? So I also did not go till failure. But another similar method of reducing volume is to reduce the number of reps that you do. So you're doing the same number of sets as normal, but you're only doing about 50% or even a little less than 50% of the reps. So you're not maxing out or going anywhere near max on your sets. If you're doing something time-based, like maybe you're working on your endurance, you're preparing for a marathon, you're working on your long-distance running, perhaps, you can just shorten the time that you're running. So you just take the time and cut it by 50% or a little more for a week. And then that's another way of reducing the volume. But one way that I've done a deload, and this was actually for my weightlifting days, was just as effective and a lot easier, was I just didn't lift anything. I didn't work out. I took an entire week off. I did nothing. And regardless, I still got the same benefits. So keep that in mind. The recommended way is to reduce volume, but you can just take a week off as well, and you will get the benefits of a deload. The next question naturally is, well, how often should you do this? And recommended general rule of thumb is every 4 to 6 weeks. And this comes from something called periodization. And if you've seen my video on overtraining symptoms, if you haven't, I recommend you check that out. In that video, I talk about periodization, which is using macro cycles, which are big, like, let's say 3-month, 12-week programs broken up into mesocycles, and those are broken down into microcycles. And using those microcycles as like an organizational unit for your program, you can schedule in these deload weeks every 4 to 6 weeks. So what are the benefits? And is it really worth it? Is it worth doing a deload every 4 to 6 weeks? Well, in my experience, absolutely. You see, in order to understand why you want to do deloads, you have to understand the idea of supercompensation. And what this says is that when you're training regularly, right, you're really pushing yourself, trying to go beyond your current limits week after week, workout after workout. Over time, you accumulate fatigue. Even though your muscles break down and they repair as you rest, there's this idea of supercompensation, where after your workout, there's a period where your performance is below baseline, okay? And then there's a recovery period where it then returns to baseline. But if you continue to allow that recovery, then it goes above baseline. Your body wants to automatically just recover stronger than it was before, so that stimulus is no longer as stressful. When you look at the idea of supercompensation, then you understand why a deload can be necessary, because a lot of us, right, if our program isn't quite right, if we're not allowing enough rest time, and if our workouts are really hard, which in calisthenics and gymnastics and weightlifting and all these things, yes, that's a lot of stress put on your skeletal muscle, on your connective tissue, and on your central nervous system. So over time, that fatigue accumulates, right? If you're not allowing full recovery, And then what happens is your hormones, like your stress hormones, cortisol, for instance, it's going to be out of balance. You're going to have more stress hormones than the testosterone and other muscle building hormones, the anabolic hormones that you want in balance with your stress hormones. This is why typically when it's time for a deload, I can just feel it. Like I plateau, I'm not seeing progress anymore. In some cases, if I'm being stubborn and I don't take my deload in time and I just keep going and going for weeks, I'll actually see my performance suffering. Like I'm getting worse, I'm regressing at some of the exercises. And that's when I know it's time for a deload. Another thing that's great about taking a week to deload is that you have more time because your workout is significantly shorter, or it just doesn't exist if you're taking the week completely off from your resistance training. So that's more time for mobility, flexibility, and soft tissue work, the things that are more focused on recovery, the more gentle things. And for me, I've been focusing a lot on soft tissue work. And from previous videos, I'm really into foam rolling, massage balls like the handheld ones, lacrosse balls. But I also recently just got this. This is from a company called Relics. All right, you've probably seen massage guns, right? But this is a mini massage gun. That's what I really like about it. You charge it off your laptop or any kind of USB device. So this is a USB chargeable massage gun. And despite it being so small and easy to travel with, it's really powerful. Like I'm using this thing daily now to get my internal rotators because I've been pretty tight on the left side here, like my upper trap, my upper chest, my anterior deltoid, and my left lat. My right side, not so much. I've been getting that side too, but really focusing on my left side here. And this thing has been super handy. It also comes with multiple attachments. And when I get my feet, there's this like prong attachment that I use. It's awesome. It really digs in. So if you really need to dig in, use the prong attachment. I use that for like the arches of my feet and other places. So now you know how to properly deload and why you should do it, and that you can use the extra time to work on your soft tissue, break up those knots, and just relax, spend more time with family and stuff like that. So naturally, the next question is, well, should you be doing a deload? How do you know if it's the right time for you if you haven't been following a rigid program? And here's what I want to tell you, all right, because this is really just an individual thing. You've probably heard of overtraining, which most likely you are not overtraining. The symptoms of that are pretty extreme, but there's something kind of a little more minor compared to that called overreaching. And that is really what you want to strive for when you're really training hard week to week. You're trying to push yourself beyond your normal limits, beyond your boundaries, right? When you're doing that week after week and that fatigue starts to accumulate, that's called overreaching. And that's when you start plateauing and you actually find that you might be getting weaker. Exercises that you were getting better at now feel harder. When you reach that point, no matter how experienced you are, that is a sign that it's time for a deload. If you're a complete beginner, or maybe just recently you started following a workout program consistently, maybe it's been a couple months and you're still seeing progress, that's normal. Someone who's new to fitness, your body's going to keep adapting and you're going to keep seeing progress for upwards of like 6 months or more. But once you're experienced, you've been doing consistent exercise for, I would say, anywhere from like a year or more, then you really want to start programming, looking at every 4 to 6 weeks, how do you feel? And if you're feeling those overreaching symptoms, like you're not able to push yourself further, then take a week with less volume or take a week off even, and it will benefit you. Last thing, guys, I just want to have a little heart-to-heart with you, because if you're anything like me, then you just want to keep pushing. You don't want to take a break. You don't want to take a week off, and I'm guilty of that. I've sometimes gone 3 or 4 months without any kind of deload or break whatsoever, and it's because you mean well, you have good intentions, and you just want to keep making progress. But don't deny it. If your progress is stagnant and you're cheating, maybe you're breaking form to get those extra reps, right? Or whatever you're doing to fool yourself, you need to realize that unless you're taking PEDs, right, performance enhancing drugs, then you're just like everybody else, every other natural athlete, and your body's going to need a break. And you deserve it. After all the hard work, you deserve it. So don't be afraid to do this. Don't be afraid to take a week, whether it's a complete week off or just deloaded training. Just do it, and I guarantee you won't regret it, because you will bounce back stronger than before. All right, everybody. As always, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And if you found the info in this video helpful, please drop a like because that helps me out in return, all right? Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications too if you're new to the channel. And with that said, I'll see you in the next one. Talk to you later.